You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 42. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Now tell me, is your business built around your lifestyle? Have you even thought about what your dream lifestyle is? I have to say that this is one of my favorite things to do now that I've become an entrepreneur and business owner, and today you are in for a treat. I am chatting with Grace Blacksea of Quench Collective, who is a business strategist who helps female entrepreneurs banish burnout, work smarter, not harder, and put themselves first. Her secret weapon, in my opinion, is that she does it from experience. Grace is going to share her journey of being a corporate event planner and how she ended up working crazy hours that included sleeping on her office floor. You are going to hear how Grace has her clients look at their values and focus on creating their businesses and how they spend their time on what they actually value. I love how she describes it, and I also think it has a lot to do with boundaries and expectations. Grab a glass of wine, because you know that's something I value, and listen to this conversation with the beautiful Grace Blacksea. Hi, Grace.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
I am so incredibly excited to have you on today. You are adorable. I only know you via Instagram, but your Instagram is too cute. And I am so looking forward to hearing what you have to say about what you do and how you're helping women. So please introduce yourself.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Grace Blacksea. I am the founder of Quench Collective, and I'm also a time strategist and business mentor. So what that means is I help teach female entrepreneurs how to banish burnout, work smarter, not harder, and put themselves first. So really diving deep into using time as a really foundational piece in their business to leverage their systems, to leverage their strategy, to then, of course, create more impact, more income, and then ultimately, the whole reason why we got into entrepreneurship in general, freedom. And in addition to that, I am the founder of Quench Collective. I've created this community for female entrepreneurs, the Quench community. It is so near and dear to my heart. So it is a place for, right now, a virtual place, especially during COVID season, for women to learn, connect, and grow together. Really, we hone in both in the business of her work and what she does as a business owner, and then the work of her, like I like to call it the business of her. So we talk about that heart work part of things and the head work part of things. We work together every week during a weekly meetup that I host for female entrepreneurs. And it is like the absolute joy of my life.
And it's what every woman needs, especially entrepreneurs. This is no joke, you guys. This is tough work.
You could say that again. That is for sure. No one should have to go at this journey alone.
No, and I have found and I've shared that having that tribe of friends, of fellow entrepreneurs, others who just get it, it's truly life-changing and business-changing on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that when you make that switch to be an entrepreneur, to say, okay, I'm ditching whatever job it is or security I have, or digging into my 401k, whatever it may be, everyone has their story of how they've got it there. It's built from a place of passion. And so it's really hard to sometimes just talk about business as usual. It's built from a place really deep within us, and we need a lot of support in bringing that to life.
Absolutely. And I want you to please share how you got to where you are, because you didn't always do this. I don't know if you were, say, an entrepreneur, but I know you came from the event industry. Mm-hmm. So can you please share your journey as to how you got to where you are today?
Of course. Yes. So I was at the height of my career. I started my event career, let's say like, oh gosh, just right out of high school, even. I was schlepping everything from furniture to flowers to you name it, from truck to truck, from event to event. And then I worked my way up into the corporate space as far as events go. And I thought I was at the height of my career when I had landed my corporate event planning job. I was planning high level events for Fortune 500 companies. I was commuting 2 hours a day. I had moved from a cubicle to an office with a door. Like I really thought I had made it.
And then an office with a door. Well, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's a big transition when you've sat in a cubicle for so long. That is for sure. So I couldn't believe it. Definitely didn't have a window, but hey, it had a door. And that was a big deal. So, before I knew it though, the late nights turned into all-nighters. The commuting turned into more or less a chiropractic bill. And my phone was quite literally a 24-hour hotline for my clients. So this dream job that I thought I had landed, it just kind of turned into a modern day nightmare. I was somewhere between I don't know, probably it was like designing boring ballrooms as far as just like not really getting to use all of my creative juices. It was the same thing over and over again, to, sleeping on my office floor some nights that I just realized I had hit total burnout. So when I did that, it felt like, gosh, like I was going at 90 miles an hour and hit a wall. And it just became so clear to me that this life that I created wasn't actually the one that I wanted. I didn't want the things that I thought for so many years I had dreamt about. And that is always really eye-opening in and of itself. And it feels, also a real huge range of emotions, just, as far as like worthiness goes. And I can't believe I spent so long doing this and what's next. And there were so many pieces of it, but I did know that I didn't want my worth to be measured by my productivity, like my email response time or the days that I was staying late at the office. Instead, I knew that I was passionate about helping women, and I wanted to help women build their businesses based on the marketing, sales, strategy knowledge, and especially with systems and planning that I knew to help them have more freedom, more impact, and more income.
I feel like you're speaking to my heart, because I was in the corporate world as well. And when I started my career, it was like a 24/7 on call. I was in corporate aviation. So my BlackBerry literally slept next to me in my bed, and I would be up at all hours taking fuel calls and, this plane landed and we need a fuel release and all of this stuff. So I completely get what you're saying there. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective now, I have carried some of that over, and I would say they're bad habits. So I respond way too quickly to emails, and I know it decreases my productivity. So I've been trying new things to make sure that, first thing in the morning, I'm not responding to all the emails, but actually doing whatever project that I need to get off my to-do list first thing before replying. But how do you even start or go about breaking these kinds of habits? Because 2 decades have been ingrained in me, and I'm finding it really hard to just stop.
Gosh, I also feel like I couldn't relate anymore. And wow, what a job in corporate aviation. That is so intense. And that I'm sure that held a ton of responsibility. Yeah. I think that here's the thing. We're on this earth for such a short period of time. And I think it's so important to remember, with all of the distractions that we have in front of us today, whether it be our cell phones, our jobs, our extracurriculars, whatever it is that we spend that really precious time that we have doing the things that matter the most to us. And I think the way that you really just define what that is by defining what's important to you. So to roundaboutly answer a question, I think in order to make sure that maybe you're waking up and not rolling over and just opening your phone or mindlessly scrolling or so on and so forth, or responding to emails, late at night when it's setting that bad example, and that they'll write you again, at some odd hour when you're not working, but you just want to get it done. You just want to get it off your list. Is that you need to define what those values are for you, what those personal values are. So we often talk about, because I work with female entrepreneurs, when I lay this out, that's one of the most foundational pieces of our work together is one of the first things we do is we talk about values, and they say, okay, well, my business values are this. And I say, oh, no, not your business values, your personal values. Like, what matters most to you? A really good example is I had a client once who was still in her corporate job, and she had gotten in this, she actually come to me because she was looking to set some boundaries. And, boundaries are just kind of these things that we have that are kind of floating in the air, if you will, until we give them meaning, until we give them purpose. And the way that we give them boots, as I'm air quoting over here, as I like to say, is by giving them that purpose by defining what our values are. So when she came to me and said, I really need to figure out some boundaries here. My boss asked me to stay late, and this was, it was probably 6 months ago. And she asked me, and I was new on the job, and I wanted to make sure that she knew that I was committed and I was willing to do anything. And I took the job at a lower pay rate so I can move up, and all the things that we've been through in the past. And it turned into, one time now being almost every single week. And I am so stretched thin. I'm getting home so late. I'm getting up and I'm doing the same thing over again. And she really actually loved the nature of the work. She just couldn't find a way to figure out how she could find her flow within this new position. And what we realized was that, when she was saying yes to her boss, right, to prove this point that she is super dedicated and that she will stay till whatever it takes to get the job done, what in fact she was doing was saying no to her family, her 3-year-old
Yes.
and her husband at home. She was saying no to eating, dinner with them every night and having those precious 2 hours that she had when she got home from work with that 3-year-old. And so what it's really about is reevaluating your decision-making based on your values. So it's really, as a society, we look at that word yes as this very, yes, I'm going to say yes to everything. It's a very positive word. We look at no as a very negative word. And in fact, it should be not necessarily opposite, but it should be looked at from perhaps a different lens. When I am saying yes to my boss, I'm saying no to my family. And so what instead we did was got really clear on, kind of pulling back the layers, was that it was absolutely a value of hers that she ate dinner every single night with her family, that she had those 2 hours with her 3-year-old before he went to bed, that she could spend that time with him. And so it became a non-negotiable for her that when her boss asked, she said, you know what, thank you so much. Thanks for asking, but it's really important to me that I'm at home, for dinner with my family. I'd be happy to come in a little bit early tomorrow to help you, but I do need to leave on time today. And all what happened was her boss said, oh, okay, great. Thank you. It was so much of a transition of reinforcing, again, maybe outwardly it looked like boundaries, but what you're doing is you're reinforcing your values. You're reinforcing what's important to you. And I think that because we're humans, and whether it's your boss or a coworker, they see, oh gosh, this is really important to you. And I respect that. And so of course, then it comes down to really enforcing not only the values, but the respect that you have. So for example, if it's you and it's something having to do with, looking at email repeatedly, past your office hours, it's, what, I really respect myself to make sure that I have this time with my family or with myself or whatever it may be, that I'm going to make sure to keep this, that app closed, the desktop closed, the laptop closed until tomorrow morning when I sign back in, because I deserve whatever is happening in those hours between emails being sent.
I love the way you put that. I love that you're bringing your values into it. It just brings a calm to me because I feel like even I need it. I find that I don't give myself office hours, that it's just constantly on. I've been working on it lately, so I don't have like notifications on my phone. They don't come up anymore. And I did that over a year ago because that was a big issue. I'd see the email and then I'd have to read it. So I don't have notifications. I recently turned off Facebook groups, all of the groups.
Oh, great.
So that was a big deal. It's such a time suck. When you belong to all of these groups, it's like, oh my goodness. And you don't really need to read all of the notifications, who posted what.
Absolutely.
And then of course, for us in the summertime, we have a pool. So I take the kids every single day out to swim for at least 2 hours. So at least I'm shutting off at 2, and then we come in around 4, I make dinner, and that's that. But then I check my emails again. Because who stops working at 2 p.m? Well, I start at 5 a.m. So yeah, I have every right to stop at 2.
Absolutely.
But I love that you bring the values into it and look at it from that way. And I think it's a combination of creating your own boundaries and then setting up the expectations for others. Because exactly what you said about your client, I'm even now, I've had clients where I'm like, oh, you need this one-off where, you sent your podcast episode in way too late. And yet I took an extra couple hours, the evening before it was due, and I cranked it out. So yours still showed up on time, even though you didn't give me 72 hours to do it. And then all of a sudden there's that expectation of, oh, well, I can do it again, and I can do it again, and I can do it again. And now I'm feeling burnt out and resentful. And, you're not honoring my values. I'm in love with the way you put that. I'm going to start using that.
Good. Yeah. And it's just the biggest thing too, is it's a practice, right? And I think doing things with intention, I love that you have that beautiful time with your kids every day to go out and swim, and you're so present in that. And, and it is okay. It's like, okay, I'm going to come in, and sure, I take, by no means do you have to, but if you intentionally are taking 1 hour, like I am talking, the timer is set on the phone, on the microwave, whatever it may be, that you are taking 1 hour just to perhaps, instead of the intention of writing people back, perhaps it's the intention of setting yourself up for success for the next day. So instead, on your action item list, which I call, instead of a to-do list, an action item list, it's that, okay, I saw an email come in from Anne or from Shelby or whoever it is. And so you're putting that on your action item list. Read those emails and reply to them. So instead of sometimes taking a different action will make us action takers, because it sounds like that's definitely what you are. You definitely get the job done. It is helpful in that, and really can just set yourself up for success for the next day, when you know that you'll be able to dive in and fully be present, and then not have that mom guilt of like, oh, I really could be spending some more time with my kids, or, whatever it may be. But again, it's that intentionality that just changes everything.
Yeah. I have one girlfriend who she'll respond to the emails at night, but she schedules them to go out in the morning at 8 a.m.
Yes.
So that way nobody has the expectation that, oh, you're going to reply at 10 o'clock and she's already got it done.
That's exactly what I do too. Sometimes if I've had one of those days where I'm just seeing clients all day, and I am checking emails at 8 o'clock at night, because it's for my own sanity, that I know that I'm not going to show up to a total blunder in the morning, and that I can actually get my morning routine done. I can move my body. I can nourish my body. I can maybe take some quiet time to myself, whatever it is, versus waking up and going, I got to get to that inbox. Instead, I'll take some time and do exactly that. I schedule them for like 8 a.m., not 6 a.m.
Right.
And making sure that, and also it really helps, especially if you are a service provider or see clients in any way, that when you have enforced those boundaries and those values of, not emailing before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m., let's say, they'll respect that back and they'll give that back to you. And so if you're really finding yourself burnt out on that, really just, again, it's a reinforcement of those values.
Yeah. And like, I love saying, like, I'm not saving lives. Like,
yes,
I'm not a heart surgeon. I'm not a brain surgeon. I get people on podcast interviews and I produce podcasts. It's not a life-saving, moment where the email has to be responded. And I used to say the same thing in aviation. And yes, there was a time where if I was on call, I was technically sometimes saving lives with, air ambulance and stuff. So that was a little different. I didn't save the life still, but I made sure that, organs got where they needed to go.
Right.
But now, that's not the case. And I think it's really hard to make some of these changes and pivots. I personally am working on baby steps in doing it. So in addition to like what I've said, I've done, those are the big ones of what I've said I needed to change. And I'm still working at it. How do you go about, in addition to, doing action items and, saying this is what I value and this is how I need to change? Is there like a step-by-step that you're teaching your clients to do this?
Yes, I am. So the very first thing that we do, no matter like how high level we're getting on strategy or implementing systems within their business, we start square one is always setting personal values and quarterly objectives. So we jump in, of course, with the definition of the values, the questions there. If any listeners want to do this for themselves, I think it's so important. I really want you to ask yourself, what fills you up? What fills up your cup? And write those things down. And then I want you to ask, what powers you down? Like those are two actual very different things. Like when you just need to like fully turn off and power down so that you can fill back up. What are those things? So make sure to write those down. And what are your non-negotiables? You wouldn't believe the amazingness that I hear. I have some that being outside, standing directly in the sun for 10 minutes a day, it is a non-negotiable for some of my clients. I have some that this is really funny, but whenever it rains, that they go for a run in the rain, and they live in a very rainy area. So like, there's just all sorts of things, and they're just like part of our fiber. I like to say, it was maybe kind of silly, but I love this comparison. So you go out and you spend like $100 on a pair of jeans, and you are so excited about them. And you're like, okay, this was a big investment for me, but like, I'm going to have them forever. I bet they're going to make my butt look so cute, and they're going to be the most comfortable jeans I ever had. And I'm going to take such good care of them. So you get them home, you wear them around, and it comes time to wash them for the first time. So you bet your behind you are looking at that care tag and like, okay, what do I need to do? Does it take laundry detergent and fabric softener? Do I have to wash them inside out? Do I need to make sure they're on cold or delicate or not spin? Or like, you are making sure you follow all the rules because it's really important to you. You made this investment in these jeans and you want to keep them intact. You want to keep them from fraying and fading and so on and so forth. So you will do truly whatever it takes, come hell or high water, for these jeans to stay intact. And then when it comes to ourselves, why don't we take care of ourselves in that same way? Like, why don't we give ourselves the same attention? And of course, there's all of the usual suspects, everything from us being sisters, mothers, wives, partners, so on and so forth, just our energy being pulled in a lot of different ways. But if you think about it, those ways, like, what is going to be on your care tag? How do you need to be cared for so that you can stay in the best, without fading or fraying or any of those things, so that you can stay intact? Because the biggest investment you can make is in yourself, of course. So I think that's where you start for sure, defining those values. And then we move on to objectives. So the big difference to note here is that goals and objectives are very much different. Goals are like that big desert island that you see off in the distance, those things that you usually set every New Year's Eve. Objectives are the vehicle in which we get to those goals. So those are where I love to live. That's like where I live with my clients in my community. We work on what are those action items that are going to actually move you forward. Because most of the time what we're doing is putting more on our plate, piling more on our plate and more on our plate. And all what happens is we're left being totally bogged down and not moving forward. We have zero momentum. So I find that when we look at objectives and we define them quarterly, which, 4 quarters in a year, super easy to digest versus planning out yearly, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that we're really able to move the needle forward. So it doesn't matter if this is in your business or your personal life. If you're just, for example, trying to get better at not sending emails after 8 p.m., that can be one of your objectives. So, and then what I would, have you do after setting that objective is underneath it, what are the action items that need to happen? Well, maybe it means that I set a timer that I only check my emails 3 times a day. And so I set that timer on my phone. I make that happen. I check it off my list, right? And that is the thing that I'm working at every single day as a practice. And then boom, 3 months later, you've been doing that practice for 90 days. And so it's going to stick with you, right? Like that's how you truly ingrain these practices inside of us. And that goes from taking on a new habit to running a marathon to starting a business, whatever it may be. It's that we need to actually just chip away at these things and making sure that we're constantly reevaluating and actually spending time taking action versus just saying that we're going to do things.
I love your jeans analogy. It all makes sense, and it sounds actually so easy.
It's not though, is it?
No, it isn't. It isn't. I want to go back because we started the conversation with how you got to where you are, and then we kind of veered off.
Yeah.
So what happened? You're spending the night in your office, and you're overworked, and you've realized that this isn't what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. It was just, oh gosh, it was so painful. I think the biggest thing, Michelle, is that I was deflecting. I was in my mid 20s. I was thought that I had made it, right? Like I had told everyone, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm living my dream. I got my dream job. I'm so excited. When in reality, I was overworked. I was underpaid and I wasn't going anywhere in the company. And as an eternal optimist, I couldn't believe that this wasn't working out. And my mom and now husband came to me and just said, Grace, like, this is not good. I had a lot of stress related health issues going on because of it. And they just came to me and said, what if you just quit? What if you just left? And I was like, well, the world would probably stop turning. When in actuality, it wouldn't, of course. And so I did make that decision. I went on like a kind of a trip of a lifetime to Israel. And it was really amazing and eye-opening. And just getting that time off to go on that 2-week trip was like so horrific. I mean, it was like so hard to take that time off, to get it off, the whole thing. And so when I went on the trip, I fully allowed myself to be present. And it became really clear to me that I needed to leave. So I did just that. I left. It was so hard. I was giving myself little jobs every day. I'm so terrible at being, alone, but also not having anything to do. And it was in that time that I realized, I don't abuse drugs. I don't abuse alcohol, but I was addicted to busyness. And I think as women, we wear busyness as a badge of honor. We think that being busy makes us important. And that's not true. We are so much more than busy. We are courageous. We're gifted. We're talented. We have so much to bring this world more than I'm just busy, and busy also doesn't necessarily equal you moving anywhere, you moving forward, you progressing, you evolving. And so I really started to reframe what it looked like, what my life looked like on my terms. And I actually did take, if I didn't start the Quench community just then, I did take a few other jobs, consulting and working for nonprofits. And I dove kind of back into the marketing and social media side of my brain. And it was really fantastic for about 2 years, but I kept having this call like, Grace, you've got to go and do your own thing. You've got to go and do your own thing. This is what you were built for. This is what you were made for. And I think there's something that's really special when you lean into those nudges. And I like to call nudges like those voices that you kind of hear in your head, not in a creepy way, just in like, try that or do that or say that to that person or, whatever it may be. I think that's really us having our own back and allowing that voice to be heard can be one of the most magical things in the world. And I finally kind of decided I quit my last, desk job that I'll ever have. I guess I should say my last job working for someone else 2 weeks before my wedding. It was just like such mayhem. I mean, I guess if you were just making life changes, make a lot of life changes. And I dove headfirst into the Quench Collective and bringing that to life and servicing women. And it's been the best decision I ever made.
I love your story. And it's funny because when I was laid off from my corporate aviation job, and it was the second layoff I had. And at that point, I was like, I'm done. I'm done working for a corporation. I'm done traveling. I'm done having a nanny. And I tried the event planning business for a bit because I'd been doing networking events for over a decade. And I was like, but wait, now I'm gone nights and weekends. This sucks. This isn't what I wanted to do. And that's when I learned how to listen to a podcast. And that was how this came about. And it's pivoted along the way and right along with you with the nudges. And, I love podcasts and I love the part where I can work with people who have a message that others need to hear. And so the PR part and booking people on interviews, that's what I went, oh, this is what I'm good at because I can do the relationships. I can do the quote unquote cold calls, because I've done sales for so long. So this is how, I'm going to lean into that and work for myself. And now I am my own boss, but I'm tough.
Yes, you are. That's incredible. I love that you, again, like leaned into those nudges. And it's so, you are so amazing at what you do. And you have such an ability to amplify so many different voices and so many different viewpoints. And those are the things that change the world. I mean, podcasts have personally changed my life. There's no question about it. So I think it's such important work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And, I agree. It takes pivots. I didn't start in the podcast industry going, oh, well, I'm going to promote people.
Right.
It was more, oh, I'm going to write some show notes and dabble in here. And, it's pivots along the way. And I think, it's important to make those pivots and make it work for you, however that looks. And then, also take into account your values. I'm so in love with what you've said. And the busyness too. I think that's so important for us to recognize as women. And, I'm a mom of 2 young ones. I've got 2 stepkids too that are older, and, being busy, it's like, it's always, you're always on, even at 2 a.m, I was busy shoveling someone back to bed.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think that and there's no doubt, like we wear so many hats just as women, and then as mothers, and then as business owners, and as partners, and they're like, the hats are endless. But the bottom line, like if you are spending the time doing the things that matter to you most, and you're busy, I mean, in my book, that is such a win. Like, oh gosh, what a gift. I really, it's of course, especially, I don't have kiddos yet, but I know that is coming, that busyness of just one's going that way and the other one's going that way. And I'm one person and I'm outnumbered and all of those things. And it's not to say, busy, I don't think is necessarily bad. I think it is a great descriptor word, but as long as you are really, truly living and leaning into those values, then, hey, we'll take, busy all we can get.
I absolutely love everything coming out of your mouth. I'm so grateful that we were introduced, and we'll have to give Madison and I a shout out because she's the one who introduced us to each other. And I'll make sure that we have links to both of our episodes on her podcast in the show notes too.
Fantastic. Love Madison. She's so fantastic. I just love her. Oh, she's so
and she'll be on the show. Well, I'm interviewing her later this month, so she'll be on the show later this summer.
Yay. She is such a ray of light. She is just like a little sunshine. I call her my little sister. She's so fantastic.
And I could be like her mom.
Oh gosh, please. No. I think we're all standing hand in hand. It's good.
Not age-wise though.
Oh gosh. No.
Grace, can you please share with everyone where they can find you and your community?
Of course. The best way to find me is Instagram. It's my favorite platform. You can find me at quench.collective or on my website, which is launching later on this month at quench-collective.com.
Oh, thank you so very much for being on the show today. This was so much fun.
It was such a blast. I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Thank you. Okay, you guys, if you don't recognize that you are in charge of your life now, then I don't know when you will. In all honesty, after we recorded this interview, I went and wrote down my top values, and simply seeing them in front of me reminds me of how I need to make my priorities simply happen. I'll give you one real life change that I made after this chat, and it's that I normally take work meeting calls Tuesday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. During the summer, I like to swim with my kids in the afternoon, but if we go out at 4 p.m., then that means that dinner will be delayed, bedtime is messed up, and on and on. So I blocked my calendar to only take appointments Tuesday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That doesn't mean I don't work on Friday or Monday, but it ensures that the time I value swimming with my kids every day is now a given. Now tell me, what is one thing you value and want to prioritize in your life while running your business? It's possible because you're in charge. You're in charge of your business, your life, and your future. Make it happen. As always, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. I'll chat with you next week.